Hey folks, it's Ray with Taste Radio. Right now, I'm honored to be sitting down with Ben Soffer, the founder and CEO of Spritz Society. Ben, how are you?
Hey Ray, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I think folks might not know your name, or maybe they do, but they're probably more familiar with your Instagram handle, or your famous Instagram handle, as it were, Boy with No Job. Where'd that come from? Because clearly you have a job now, and I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile. You've had a job for a long time. So how'd you end up with that one?
Yeah, I've had a job forever. I came up with that with my wife. So my wife is Girl with No Job, and that sort of came. She has a wildly popular Instagram account. Mine is just semi-popular. Always constantly chasing her up that hill. But that came through consistency, wanting to be the boy with no job to the girl with no job, and they both just came from very naturally. She had an internship, then did not have an internship. So when she was employed, she was girl with a job. And then when she wasn't, she was girl with no job. So it really just came from circumstance. And it's funny, people ask all the time, how did it come to be? And really, it just was a product of the times and doing things that we love to do, posting authentic content. And we're fortunate enough that over the last 8 years, it really blew up into something really special.
It definitely has, and I've been perusing your Instagram account over the past few weeks, and you've got some really interesting and hilarious content. One of the things that really struck me was a repost of a video that was produced by Tony Baker, who is a comedian, and it was about the brown Listerine. The brown Listerine, if folks recall, is like the original old school Listerine. If you recall, like way back in the day, it used to come in this like wide cylinder glass bottle. Do you remember those days, or were you always like Listerine was always in plastic for you?
No. I fully remember it, and I fully remember brown Listerine. And I thought that video was so funny. The sort of our entire vibe and mantra and what we try and do every single day, whether it's an original post, a story, a repost, is relatable humor and authenticity. So that video like struck both of those chords. It's like, can I enter your mind and remind you of something that you completely forgot about? You have that aha moment, and then you're like, oh my God, brown Listerine. Yeah, that was a great video. Great video.
Yeah, I was talking to my brothers about this because we grew up on the brown Listerine, and they were like, I thought that was discontinued now, and I'm like, I need to go into CVS and check it out, because I haven't seen it in a while either. But man, if you have ever tried that product or actually swished around with it, it is vicious, but you feel it. It's like you feel like it's actually doing what it's supposed to do. It's not like that minty fresh Listerine. This will kill any germs in your mouth, probably in your throat, stomach, esophagus, everything. The brown Listerine will take care of everything for you. So yes, I definitely related to that video. I'm glad you reposted it, because I watched it about 10 times and I laughed my ass off about 10 times. So thank you for that.
It's funny. You mentioned vicious. Honestly, Listerine in general is vicious. Like,
Yeah.
you don't realize until you don't cut it with water. Like when you go to a hotel, or if you go to like the gym and you do a swish afterwards, it's like kind of pleasant because they cut half of it with water. It's like what your mom used to do when you were young and drinking Gatorade. Like she'd put half of it with water, half with, or at least that was my mom. But yeah, when you have regular Listerine, it's harsh. It stings, regardless if it's brown or not. But yeah, the brown
That is
Listerine.
true, but I didn't know they did that at hotels and gyms. I always thought it was like Scope, because Scope isn't as harsh. But I always thought that was like, this is interesting to me that they're cutting Listerine with water.
I could be completely lying, Ray. I could be lying. I thought that it was cut with water, but maybe it's Scope. So I'm not sure who's right, but it's certainly less intense outside of the one that's sitting in my bathroom.
For sure. Now we're talking about two products that you swish but don't consume. You don't drink Scope or Listerine. You certainly drink Spritz Society's products. One of the things, before we actually get into the genesis of this brand, that really amazed me was your Instagram handle for that brand is just Spritz, @Spritz. How'd you get that?
Ray, I can't divulge my secrets fully.
Okay.
What I can say is that I have been admiring the handle for a long time, and uh, through my charm, I was able to acquire it.
Okay. Fair enough. Do you know?
That,
Do you
that's
know?
that's the full story. I just really like the handle was amazing, and part something that's so authentic to me, which we'll dive into in a bit, is this whole idea of spritzes. Even before Spritz Society, I've always loved spritzes, and Spritz season is like something that I coined on my social, where if I'm drinking any kind of spritz at a restaurant, it's Spritz season. Um, and so when I saw this handle was really not being used, I made it my life's work to make sure that I got my hands on it. So it was took long. It was a dedicated long journey, but we have the handle.
Well done. Well done. You know, I interviewed the founders of a hot sauce brand called Truff, Truff. Are you familiar with the guys, Nick Gian and Nick Kichaluna? Yeah. And they talked about how they acquired the handle sauce at sauce. And they were like, what can we do with this? And that eventually turned into the brand Truff. Pretty amazing story. They also didn't divulge exactly how they got the handle as well, but there are some rules that Instagram has about how you can acquire or trade and things like that. So I'm sure
Exactly.
that's a story for another time.
For another time.
You have been known as an expert in influencer marketing. And that is a really relevant term to our audience, but I'm not sure if you have the same definition that other folks do. How do you define influencer marketing?
Influencer marketing is typically paying somebody for their authentic influence to talk about your product in a way that is relevant to their audience, as opposed to the way that it's relevant to your brand's brand book. So really tapping into an audience authentically to either sell product or deliver on any KPI.
So in the beverage industry, one of the original influencers, or one of the most well-known influencers in contemporary beverage history, was 50 Cent when he aligned with Vitamin Water. And this was before social media. This was before a lot of things really related to social marketing. How have things evolved since that time?
Sure. So I consider celebrity marketing, true celebrity marketing, and influencer marketing to be two completely separate things. So when you do a celebrity endorsement deal, if you have Ryan Reynolds with Aviation Gin, or if you have 50 Cent with Vitamin Water, as you brought up, those are not, to me, they're not as authentic, because the reason why they have social followings is not because of what they've done on social, it's because of what they've done off social. So a key difference with influencers. So if you think of, I don't know, we can use, I'm trying to think of, pick any influencer. I guess we'll just use myself for this example, but
Please do.
I've created an audience because of the stuff that I post, because of my humor, because of my voice, and created an entire community that never existed outside of social. 50 Cent is famous for movies, for rapping, for everything. He's a monster celebrity. And the people that follow him on social are following him because they loved him, they loved his music, or they loved him in the movies, not necessarily because of the stuff that he posts on social. So I think that there's a varying level of engagement. And also it's far more expensive to work with a celebrity to get them to post on social. So a key thing in influencer marketing historically has been, how do we leverage these audiences that are super, super authentic, get them for a better price, and ultimately have them have better conversions? So in a 50 Cent deal, he'll be far more effective in traditional media. So in an out-of-home ad, in a TV ad, which is really how they used him for Vitamin Water, right? On the social side, it's like a decent press opportunity, but I think that more traditional influencers, YouTubers, Instagrammers, people that were born on platform, I think are more effective.
So as you mentioned, 50 Cent became an influencer as a result of his celebrity. How do you become an influencer if you're not a celebrity?
One, you time the platform really well. So you'll notice there's no coincidence that, like, you look on TikTok, you have Addison Rae, you have Charlie D'Amelio, you have all of these massive stars and they were early adopters of the platform, did it right, created content that people wanted to see. But it really is all about timing it, for sure. You have to have great content. You have to strike a very authentic chord with your audience and do something that garners an audience, but you also have to time it right. It's very, very difficult to grow an audience on Instagram today. It was significantly easier 8 years ago, the same way that I assume it'll be very difficult to grow an audience on TikTok in 5 years, but it was very easy a year and a half, 2 years ago. If you're trying to become an influencer today, my advice would be don't try to become an influencer. Post content that's authentic to you, knowing that if the content is something that resonates with people, it will absolutely catch on.
Are you on TikTok?
I am on TikTok. I wouldn't go through it. It's rather embarrassing. Because I'm a little, my humor is a little bit too old for that platform. It just, videos just don't hit quite like the kids' videos do. But I am on TikTok. I do enjoy it. I certainly love scrolling TikTok. I think it's an unbelievable, it's just such a different platform, right? Are you a TikTok user?
I'm not. No, it's one of the things like you, it's hard for me to get into because I think my concept or my idea of humor and that of most of the content on TikTok are two different things.
So what I will say, I was very down on TikTok. I did not think that it was for me at all. I don't think it's for me posting, but I do think that they have one of the most advanced algorithms I've ever seen on a social platform. And they really do cater your entire feed to everything else that you like in your life, which is terrifying. Like I'll mention something out loud and all of a sudden it will be on my TikTok feed. It's definitely scary. And I'm sure that they're listening to me. But the feed is really, really catered to everything that I love. So I love golf. I'm getting golf tutorial videos. I love any kind of humor. They're showing me stand-up comedy sketches, or they'll show me UGC. Like that to me is the most powerful part of TikTok. It's making anyone feel like an influencer. People can just go viral at any time. And I think that leads to far more risque content that ends up being really funny. So I would recommend it.
Okay. Before we continue, I want to ask, so you say the word golf while on TikTok, and then all of a sudden you get golf videos appearing in your feed. That's what you said?
I'm not gonna start creating conspiracy theories, but I am positive that they're listening to me. I will talk about something. It's happened numerous times. I'll mention something just in passing. I'll hop on TikTok 6 hours later and something related to that will be there.
So it's not even when you're on the app. It could be. Oh my goodness. Okay. So that makes me even less high on TikTok. I think probably going to avoid that for a bit. Even though as a journalist, as a podcaster, it's probably something I should be paying a little bit more attention to. But I do know that, and the videos that you shared, the content that you shared on your Instagram account, some of that stuff is really hilarious and attention grabbing. In terms of engagement, you're seeing comments and you're seeing other reposts from your account and whatnot. But I wonder, for you, and what is more important? Is it attention grabbing? Is it attention, or is it engagement, or is it this mix of both?
I would say that it's both. And one thing that people often forget to talk about as it relates to engagement. So engagement isn't just likes and comments. Engagement, for me, the most powerful form of engagement, which nobody can see but me, is shares. So shares are, you are loving this Listerine post and you sent it directly in messages to 5 of your friends. That's the highest form of engagement to me. And so I always look for things that are shareable. I always look to create content that's authentic. And then I look to create content ultimately that's on brand. So the brand of Ben and Boy with No Job is food, drinks, memes, weirdly Mrs. Doubtfire references. But that is the ethos that I play in. And I try not to go too far outside of that. Also making fun of the keto diet. Those are things that are relevant to me. But so optimizing for engagement and authenticity is the most important.
I think people know what on brand means. Authenticity is one of those words that gets used a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that, some people might have a different perspective on what authenticity is than others do. I mean, how do you define authenticity?
I would say that, and I love that you brought that up. Most people that say that they're authentic are authentically inauthentic. So it's what authenticity means to me is that if you meet me in real life, which fans can attest when they've met me on the street or at any function, I'm identical to how I am on this interview and to how I am on social. Like now I'm a little bit more buttoned up. I mean, I'm not wearing a nice collared shirt like you, but I'm a little bit more buttoned up. But
That's they pay me for this, so don't worry about it. It's fine.
Exactly. But in general, it's just not wavering. It's being yourself through and through. It's not creating this false environment that people see online and then meet you in person. It's totally different. And I'm not talking about editing photos. Like that's not I'm a big proponent of do whatever you want to do. People create multiple personalities and one exists on social and one exists off social. And I think that the key to authenticity is making sure that they're woven.
I think what you're saying is, some of those Instagram models that you see who are sucking in their gut for the photo, to show what appears to be a six pack or close to that, doesn't really exist in reality is what I'm hearing.
That's certainly one big piece of it. The other is just like clickbaity stuff that isn't even real. Like there's just my favorite thing. I don't know if you've seen these memes, but there was like a popular meme trend where it was YouTubers taking very plain situations, but creating really eye-grabbing titles for them. So like a YouTuber would see a woman crossing the street and 5 seconds later a bus would pass. And then the title for the YouTube video would be elderly woman almost gets smashed by a bus. And it's like, click here to watch. And like, that was like a very popular, hilarious meme trend, but those videos are very real. And so authenticity is not distorting reality in any way.
Okay. How much time do you spend on social media?
Less now that I have a large company.
A job per se.
Yes. Even when I had a job, at least I had more time to be on social. Running Spritz Society and being the CEO of this company is the most time-consuming endeavor I've ever had. So I do still find time for social, but probably at this point it's like an hour a day.
Really? That's it? Wow.
Yeah.
I think I spend more time on social than that. That's interesting. And you have 1.6 million followers. I think I have like 1,500. So
well, the 1.6 million came a while ago. They're slowly we have our base now. I don't expect my audience to grow too much over the next bit of time. We're really happy with each other, me and my audience. We're in a good place.
Well, I assume you'd want to increase the size of your Instagram audience for Spritz Society, which I don't know how many followers you have at this point, but it's probably not 1.6 million. Hopefully you'll get there at some point. Let's talk about Spritz Society.
Sure.
As you mentioned, you were really interested in the beverage form, the beverage category, whatever you want to call it. Why start a brand?
So it all plays back into this topic of authenticity, which is the theme of our podcast. Selling others' products, regardless of how much you like it, is not authentic. We can try and make it as authentic as possible, right? Like brands can come out with collabs with influencers. But in the end of the day, they're being paid to promote a product that is not theirs. And it's always been an absolute dream of mine to use my audience, my wife's audience, her sister's audiences. They have a really popular podcast called The Morning Toast that gets 1.2 million listens a week. The goal was create something that we love, that we can really proudly stand behind and say, we made this, it's delicious. There is no paid partnership here. That was the reason why I wanted to start it. Making sure that there was something that we could create, that we could sell to our audience that wasn't, for lack of a better term, bullshit. Like a lot of influencer marketing is just pay for play. And we wanted to make sure that our audiences knew that what we were making was the real deal.
Yeah, we've seen other influencer based beverage and food concepts come to market. Um, some, frankly, are better than others. I think what you have with Spritz Society is pretty great. How long has this been in planning? Because when I'm looking at your package, when I'm looking at the positioning, when I'm looking at how you've designed the website and gone to market with this brand, it all looks like it's pretty slick, and slick in a good way, not slick in any kind of negative way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This is at this point about 2 years in the making. It's been, as any entrepreneur will say, an absolute grind, highs and lows. But it's been about 2 years. It all started with an idea. It all started with sort of a path that we saw. The RTD market was exploding. The RTD market, though, was exploding because of convenience, not because of taste, which is something that's incredibly important to me when I consume alcohol. I like tasting something that tastes good. Otherwise, I'll take a shot of tequila. Like I don't want to drink 350 ml of something that doesn't taste good. That's just like the end result.
I bet you're not a big fan of hard seltzer.
I'm not a big fan of hard seltzer simply because it was a land grab. There's zero transparency. Everything about hard seltzer is the complete antithesis of Spritz Society. So the lack of transparency in the space, the reason why, and again, I don't need to tell you or your listeners this, but hard seltzer exploded because they're malt based and they're able to be sold with beer distributors in locations next to beer with incredible velocity that the liquor industry simply doesn't have. So it was a complete land grab. It wasn't because it tastes good. It was because it tastes different than beer. You have beer drinkers that love beer, but you have this entire community that we're now seeing of people that actually probably don't like beer. And maybe we thought that they did, but clearly they like something convenient and different more. So the goal was, don't make a malt-based beverage, make a wine-based beverage. Make something that is, of course, low calorie, or 120 calories, but the alcohol industry is not healthy. There is no, like this whole sort of mantra that's come out of hard seltzers are one carb, 100 calories. Like, I understand that may seem healthy, but if you don't even know the liquor or the alcohol substance that's in your drink and you don't understand the ingredients, what does health mean? So it was incredibly important to us to have all natural ingredients, be wine-based, be very transparent. If you look at the back of our can, everything is listed. In the wine category, you don't even have that necessarily with all of your brands. We're vegan. So, and most people don't know that a lot of wines use meat products. A lot of wine-based spritzers use meat products. So it was incredibly important to us to create a beverage that is absolutely delicious. No joke, for sure, my favorite drink. I would hope so, but it really is. It's just really, really unbelievable. And that was probably the part that took the longest, making sure that the flavors are perfect and look perfect when poured out, or taste perfect when consumed out of the can. And then that piece with authenticity, just making sure that we were really selling something that we were proud of.
How'd you get up to speed on formulation, packaging, go-to-market strategy, execution? I mean, all these things from, a decade of hearing from founders and entrepreneurs is not an easy thing to do, even if you are experienced in the beverage industry.
No, it's incredibly, incredibly difficult. The first piece in terms of formulation worked with a world-class mixologist out of Vancouver, and beverage scientist. And that's, again, a theme of sort of this entire production. It's just, I know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know, and making sure that I surrounded myself with the best advisors in the wine and spirits industry, with the best formulators, introductions to the best packaging partners. I could not have done it without the strategic team that I put together, which unfortunately for confidentiality purposes, I can't mention, but I can just say that we have some real titans of industry across the entire spectrum. So that made things I don't want to use the word easier, but it made them doable. Because I certainly could not have come up with world-class cocktail recipes in my kitchen. So it was something that we outsourced and we worked on for months and months and months. One thing that I will mention is I said that it's from Vancouver, and based on the timeline, you can tell that we did most of this during the pandemic. And I can tell you, or anybody that's listening, that if you've ever tried to do a taste test through the mail internationally, I mean, nobody's ever done that before. It was the most, that's what took so long, honestly. It took us about 7 months to get the formulas right, because he would make a batch, he would send it over the mail, it would get stuck at Canadian customs for 2.5, 3 weeks. It would then get sent over, we would try it, we would get feedback, and we would do it again. So the process that could have taken a month took 7. But so, yeah, that is how the formulation piece came to be and how the team came to be. In terms of the go-to-market strategy, I've been a marketing executive for the last 9 years. So from a marketing perspective, I fortunately have worked with some fantastic beer and spirits brands over my tenure at various agencies. Probably most notably would be VaynerMedia, where I ran their influencer marketing department for a number of years and worked on brands, many Diageo brands, many Anheuser-Busch brands. And so it really did give me great insight into how to launch this product.
And VaynerMedia, owned by Gary Vaynerchuk, who I'm sure listeners are familiar with. Your formulator, you described as a mixologist, and it's interesting because the way you refer to this product in marketing and promotion is as a canned cocktail. Is that the easiest point of reference? Is that the easiest way for folks to understand what you're selling versus calling it something else?
It's a great question. So we didn't want to call it a wine spritzer because that, as of right now, has a connotation that it's just old news. Wine spritzers are things that have been done before. Being a wine-based canned cocktail, I think accurately positions us because we're not just flavored wine. It's funny as I'm explaining it, there is a stark difference between flavored wine and sparkling wine with natural flavors. And we wanted to make sure that people knew that this was a substantial beverage, that when you drink it, it has a lot of depth. It's well balanced, all of the flavors. So we have grapefruit, pineapple, blood orange, and lemonade. I would say that the grapefruit is probably my favorite, but they're so well balanced is the best word to describe them. And sparkling wine cocktails sounded like the best entry point for consumers to understand what we were doing and that it was new. When you see the canned cocktail space, the real canned cocktail space, the ABV is so much higher. Like these canned cocktails are in the 8, 10, 12. They're not sessionable whatsoever. And that's fine, but that does not lead to strong velocity and reorder rates. And so we positioned ourselves at 6% so that we're higher than what people are experiencing in hard seltzer, but lower than what people are experiencing in the canned cocktail world. And I just think that from not only an ABV perspective, but also how beautiful they look poured. Like I would also recommend if you have a nice wine glass, pour it into a wine glass and see that it looks like an Aperol Spritz. The blood orange one does at least.
Now, whether you're talking about canned wine or whether you're talking about canned cocktails, both segments are exploding. Both segments are getting really, really crowded. It feels like some of the brands that had launched 2 to 3 years ago are the ones that are sort of ahead of the curve, as might be expected. No offense, but it feels like Spritz Society might be a little behind the trend. Do you feel that way? And if so, how do you catch up?
And no offense taken, I don't feel that way at all. I feel that once one has tried the product, they'll understand that it does taste significantly better than everything else in market. It's not all about taste. It's also about marketing. But thankfully, we have a very, very significant owned marketing engine behind us, plus a successful seed round that allows us to really blow this thing out of the water. So the things that will allow us to succeed: one, we had a very successful launch because of my Instagram, my wife's Instagram, her sister's Instagrams, and I mentioned the Morning Toast. The Morning Toast is probably the most popular female millennial morning show and podcast. It runs 5 days a week. And their listeners are really, really wonderful and unbelievable. And they tried the product. Thousands and thousands of them have tried the product already and really, really love it. We've had fantastic reception. And we have not spent any money yet on paid media advertising. And over the next month, 2 weeks to a month, we're hiring a VP of sales, a VP of supply chain, and really making a major push into wholesale. So focusing on building our brand and building our voice digitally and socially, and then flipping it into wholesale as opposed to going all at the same time, I think is a main difference for us, besides the product, besides the marketing. We know where our consumers are already. I know that when I enter the California wholesale market, when we enter the Illinois wholesale market, the New York wholesale market, the Florida wholesale market, that there are tens of thousands of people waiting to purchase this product, as opposed to a brand that doesn't necessarily have that data, takes a risk, enters a market, and fails. You're only going to fail if you have no velocity, right? Like the main thing in wholesale is how quickly can you sell? Are the stores excited about having your product? And being able to come in with an owned marketing network that has such power and influence. There's a difference between follower count and influence, which isn't something that we spoke about, but as it relates to influencers, there are people with 1 million followers that convert better than people with 30 million followers. Is that audience treating you like a print magazine, or is that audience where they're just looking through, enjoying your content, but buying nothing? Or is your audience really committed to not only supporting you, but trying the things that you've recommended to them? So we have a really, really engaged audience. I've mentioned a couple of different ways, but I think that all of those, plus you mentioned the social handle in the beginning, but the biggest thing for an early stage startup is education as to what your product is. What is this product? We don't have that problem. Being verified and being Spritz, when you look us up, we're the first Spritz company to pop up. We pop up before any of the other ones that you may be familiar with. So through organic search on Instagram and on social, through press, we have an amazing PR team in Align PR. We just think that we're incredibly well positioned with a really, really great product to change the hearts and minds of consumers that think that their alcohol choices in a can don't need to taste that great.
You've talked quite a bit about social and the influence and the sort of audience that you and your wife have, and the engagement that you're getting. When you were raising that seed round and talking to investors and talking to folks about becoming advisors to the company, how much of that conversation was about your social influence? How much of your business plan as a whole was about, I guess, the power you wield, for lack of a better phrase, on social?
It was certainly present. I would say that in our investor deck, it was front loaded with, here's all of the influence that we have. We have a friends and family network that totals over 100 million strong on social for seeding. So we really come with a mini PR team on our backs as well. That was sort of the shiny item in the front of the idea and in the front of the deck. But then we really, really made sure that we backed everything up with facts. The deck was really about the competitive landscape. It was about the trends in the RTD industry. It was about the inefficiencies across alcohol. It was about being wine-based and being able to sell direct to consumer, as opposed to all of these malt-based beverages or hard alcohol-based beverages that can't. Consumers don't realize that when they go and purchase alcohol online from a tequila-based seltzer company, they're not buying direct from that company. They're buying through a retailer. And the difference there is data. I'm able to communicate with my consumer through email, through SMS, through numbers of different channels, and communicate with them directly. So it was certainly about our influence. The influence was the thing that would supercharge us, and it has. But then it was also making sure that this was a product market fit. It was something that was necessary. It was something that was needed. And explaining that while we have a really, really great understanding of this industry and what we're trying to do, that we need the best strategic partners to help bring it to life.
Those strategic partners include distribution partners, because that's something we haven't talked about, and I'm sure you're getting up to speed pretty quickly. The distribution game, particularly as it relates to alcoholic beverages, can be difficult to navigate. How are you finding your way through that?
So the main goal in the beginning of this business is just learning direct to consumer, who our audience is, how much they reorder, and then where they live. From there, around holiday, we plan on going into markets that we think are smart bets. So the goal is not go national wholesale, spray this as wide as we can, hope that it works out. We're trying to be very, very strategic, not only with our dollars, but also with our data, and making sure that we know where the consumers are and where they're going to purchase. We are actively vetting distribution partners, figuring out which one is right for us, which one is right for this product, and which one will help take it to the next level. But at the same time, we are developing a great direct-to-consumer business.
How does trial work as it relates to direct-to-consumer? What is the way to go beyond wetting the palate and literally wetting the palate?
Yeah. So one, again, hate to keep bringing up our competitive advantage, but we launched on the podcast and we launched through our audiences, and we gave discount codes. And that led to significant trial throughout we launched on the 17th, significant trial through the first 2 weeks of this business. We only gave coupon codes for our most expensive item, which is our variety pack. Wanted to make sure that consumers were able to try all 4 flavors and that they were able to get it at a more competitive price. So we launched with a 20% discount code that is then changed to, there are different ones out there right now, 10, 15. We're currently running a Labor Day discount code or acquisition offer of 15%. So it's spritzsociety.com. And you can use Labor Day 15. But it is all about just cans and hands, getting people to try it, because I can tell you that the beverage is the best canned beverage that you've tasted, but you have to taste it for yourself to really buy into that, because it's a bold statement, but I like to think of myself as a connoisseur of beverages, and that I have a good palate, and I really do believe wholeheartedly that it's the best canned cocktail on the market.
There you go. I like that call to action. Very nice. You got to get it in your hands. We talk about you as an influencer, and obviously it would be helpful for other influencers to be involved in Spritz Society, beyond yourself and your wife. Who are the dream gets that you have for folks to help promote this product, promote this brand? Do you need those people, or are they part of the plan?
The dream person is the person that tries this, loves this, and can as authentically talk about it as we can. So it's not we're going to bring on an A-list celebrity because we think that we have to. If over time that does happen, that's great. But as of right now, the goal is our audiences, using micro influencers as well. So we're working with about 200 micro influencers right now to make content, post it on social, and then we're able to leverage their assets in paid media. So a micro influencer, at least the way that I define it, is under 25,000 followers. So we're talking about small folks that are really just content creators. So the goal is to really leverage our owned audiences. Again, friends and family, partners and influencers that can post on our behalf. But as it comes to really formally introducing a new person into the mix, they would just need to love the product. We don't ever want to have this brand feel like it's inauthentic for 1 second. But we do understand that in order to really turn this into the enormous company that we hope for it to be, it's going to take more than just our audiences, of course. So we'll sort of weigh that as things go on, but authenticity and loving the product would be a really great start for somebody that wanted to get involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, micro influencers are heavily used or heavily employed by folks in the food and beverage industry, to most specifically by emerging brands. I see a lot of early stage brands tapping someone with 4,000 or 5,000 followers, a yoga instructor, a semi-pro athlete, something like that. And then sometimes when I see the product placement or I see the content that influencer has created, I'm like, this seems so, to use that word again, inauthentic. How are you vetting these micro influencers? How do you know who's right for Spritz Society?
So one, we make sure that they do authentically love spritzes and that it's something that wouldn't be unnatural to their feeds. So I'm not going to go and work with somebody that is where the content would feel off. So that's the first thing, taking a look through their feed and making sure that the content would fit well. The second is, it definitely is less about authenticity when it comes to their audiences because of how small they are, and it's more about their content. So for the amount of money that one pays a micro influencer to create great content, the goal is always, let's get the best content. You're paying less money to a micro influencer than you're paying to a photographer any day of the week. Of course, you still need photo shoots, but in terms of being able to get a wonderful range of different sizes, diversities, it's really, really important that you're able to tap into all of these different markets, and micro influencers make that easier because they shoot their own content, right? So it's far more about the content quality than it is about their post. But the best thing that we can do is try and only work with people where it feels like the product would fit well on their feed.
Going through your Instagram feed and seeing all the really hilarious content that you post, I wonder how you're going to incorporate content for Spritz Society into that feed. I'm looking through it right now, and I think I see one post about Spritz Society throughout your feed, and that doesn't include your stories or anything else like that. What's the plan there? Because I think some folks in your audience might be like, whoa, and I'm certainly not saying this, but someone might be like, oh, Ben's a sellout now. Look, he's promoting a product. This is not authentic to his feed. I thought I was looking for jokes and funny videos. Now I'm getting ads for a canned cocktail.
Yep. It's a great point. So to the first point of how we're incorporating it, the first is stories are the place where you see the most of my face on a daily basis. So it's very, very authentic to do it there. And I'm actively reposting, resharing, people opening their boxes and talking about the product. So on stories. The second is when we get to doing some really, really fun lifestyle shoots. That's where content will start to appear in my feed. So if I'm dressed head to toe in a matching outfit that matches a Spritz Society can, that'll be very authentic to my audience and they'll love that. So waiting for the right moment to not aggravate some followers, as you mentioned. But one important thing is that I would say the vast majority of my audience understands we've been giving them free content for the last 8 years. It's not like I'm paid to run my Instagram account, right? So in turn, for providing daily humor, I think that it's okay that we promote something that we authentically created and something that we are really, really proud for them to try. So I feel it's a little bit different than if I was getting paid to promote product every day, then it's Ben's a sellout. In this way, it's Ben's an entrepreneur. He's passionate. I've loved following him for a really long time, and I'm really excited to be on this journey with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one post that I see on your feed about Spritz Society is you doing a cannonball into a pool that has the word Spritz Society on top of it. It seems very in line with what some of the other things that you're doing. It's great. Um, and this conversation has been great. I really appreciate the time, Ben. It's so interesting speaking with you. I feel like we could speak for another hour or so, but perhaps we'll do this again in a few months, or check in with you in 2022 and see how things are going with Spritz Society. But in the meantime, once again, really appreciate the time, and wish you all the luck going forward with the brand and the company.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Ray. It was great speaking with you, and looking forward to chatting again soon.
Absolutely.